The Philippines and Malaysia relationship is regarded as two key strategic partnerships that have been of importance throughout the history of Southeast Asia. They have, within history, combined their means, traded through conflicts, and aided one another, but have also seen a number of issues partake over the thousands of years that they have shared borders with one another. Today, however, the two nations' importance to one another has become more so. The Philippines and Malaysia rely heavily upon each other, as they are both members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN for short. They hold strategic defense cooperations, country-to-country business collaborations, investments that hold true to their most crucial sectors such as oil, and ultimately are very much reliant on each other within the coming future. The Philippines and Malaysia, according to official government data, has a strong economic partnership. Their trade volume in 2020 totaled over $6.2 billion, with the Philippines importing $4 billion and only exporting $2 billion. This has risen tremendously, as it was just in 1995 when the two had a minimal combined trade volume of only about $1 billion. This has been largely thanks to the importation of electronic and semiconductor devices from the Philippines to Malaysia, whilst Malaysia to the Philippines is largely thanks to petroleum oil and similar products. But as experts know, this sum of only $6.2 billion is in fact small, meaning that the Malaysian-Philippines bilateral relationship is actually amongst the lowest in the major bloc of Southeast Asia. Yet the geographic importance that the two hold is about the best for the nation of the Philippines, as they are very much close to Malaysia through the island of Borneo, where Sabah resides. As important as they are within their geo-economy, the two also have a lacking foreign direct investment drive within each other. As a matter of fact, the two actually fight for these international investments. They are competing against each other for billion-dollar contracts seen across the world, with Malaysia winning most of these, as they are headed as amongst the best nations within Asia to invest in. To truly look at how important the two nations are to one another, let us take a look at not just only what is happening today, but throughout the history that the two nations share. Malaysia and the Philippines have been sharing close borders throughout modern and even ancient history. The two, however, have a very special knit, as before the colonial period when the Europeans had overtaken the lands of Asia, they had very similar governance, known as Datus, Rajas, Sultans, and look at each other as having similar ideologies. This likewise placed their relations with one another of high importance, and trade and economic activity was very much intertwined. Eventually, however, their government and population ideologies would change, as the two nations would fall into the hands of Spain, the United Kingdom, and the Portuguese. Only thereafter would they emerge to become different nations as soon as they claimed back their independence within the modern era. In 1959 was that year that the two nations officially established proper diplomatic relations. 4 years after their relations, however, was a movement of history that could have changed the direction of the entire Southeast Asian region as a whole. Mafalindo occurred in 1963. This was known as the Greater Malayan Confederation, a proposed non-political union of 3 nations, including Indonesia. This was, however, dismantled. Had it been a success, it would have likely changed the drastic course of what we know today as the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. But as history always points out, nothing is always certain. In the coming decades, the Philippines and Malaysia, on the other hand, would see a number of conflicts of interest. Former presidents of the Philippines would emerge to claim territory on North Borneo, which is where Malaysia's Sabah resides upon, even at a time when the government of the Philippines had opened up the Operation Merdeka, which was to take over this territory, but ultimately failed. This claim over Sabah's land had not stopped even until today. There are still groups, even high-ranking politicians, that lay claim upon the lands that the two nations want. How this has emerged, however, is an entirely different conversation. This Sabah procurement had been agreed upon since 1878 and had several protests going on since 1962. Looking forward to the future of this dispute, however, is also another entirely new conversation, as it is very unlikely that another form of renewal on this land would happen in today's modern era. That is, of course, as long as relations are maintained properly. Likewise, as well, Malaysia has had a number of incidents within the modern era. Then Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad claimed that they had actually funded insurgencies within the island of Mindanao, which had been an issue for the government of the Philippines over the years as it was doing so. Such claims and conflicts are not even the most fierce. As of late, they are also part of the disputes of the Spratly Islands, which the two nations share with Vietnam, China, and Taiwan. Despite all of the issues that have happened thus far, let us not forget that Malaysia and the Philippines still, even if they are small compared to other nations, share a strong and important strategic partnership with one another, whether that is done through their economies, military, or even culture. It is even, in fact, known that there are hundreds of thousands of Malaysian Filipino origins, and the Malay language is even spoken by several people today. And history, as some of the documents that date way back hundreds of years ago use the Malay language. The most significant is that there is a huge population of Filipinos in Sabah, frankly both legal and illegal, meaning undocumented visitors, as it is presumably at times not too difficult to cross the two's borders. In fact, as sad as it is, 72% of the total prison population in Sabah are actually Filipinos, which then further complicates the entire Sabah conversation. Although quite unnoted throughout, the Sabah claims that their economic partnerships was this Sabah issue actually one of the reasons why there is a lack of significant bilateral relationship between the two nations. Rather, if it never existed in the first place, and then President Diosdado Macapagal of 1962 did not lay claim, would the shape of the two nations' relations have drastically changed? Well, it is likely that we may indeed have seen a stronger connection between the two important borders of Sabah and Mindanao. These two have already in many ways traded with each other, either that is through illegally or legally, yet it has still shown due to the importance of the waters they reside in, they can easily share in a faster and better mode of transportation. With disputes and tensions, however, it is also likely that this trade of legality was reduced. That aside, to signify what we have seen so far with their economic treaties is that we have seen so far, as you all know, ASEAN, but not limited to it, as we have also seen BIMP EAGA, a joint collaboration East growth area that partakes ASEAN's Eastern members, and to promote cross-connectivity between manufacturing, sustainability, development, and even one of the biggest goals, which is to entail this East Asian region to become Asia's food basket region, meaning ensuring that there is a strong long-term goal in the agribusiness of these nations, segmenting them as a key commodity exporter to the rest of Asia. After all, this is entirely possible as there is a potential unheard of any other destinations across the world. The Sulu-Sulawesi Seas is a highly biodiverse unit within the Coral Triangle, which is famously known to have the world's highest concentration of marine biodiversity. This likewise has then placed the importance of being a key exporter of such a kind. Further on, the Malaysian-Philippines Business Council lives on as a key important treaty. This has helped shape several presences of Filipino brands across Malaysia, notably known as Ayala Land acquiring a majority stake in MCT Berhad, known to be a major infrastructure and building construction company in Malaysia, and Aboitiz Equity Ventures acquiring Gold Coin Management Holdings, a pioneer in animal nutrition with strong significant regional presence, and finally, the famous Jollibee Foods Corporation announced that it plans to open 120 stores in Malaysia. But anyway, with all that, what do you think about the Malaysian-Philippines relations?